We continue to learn the cathode ray oscilloscope, or most popularly known as the CRO. Let us recapitulate what we have learned. We learned that the heart of CRO is the CRT. The CRT is an evacuated glass tubes with the cathode made of tungsten filament and heated up to generate electrons. We have a control grid that controls the number of electrons that pass through the control grid. We apply always a negative voltage to the control grid, so that we can control the number of electrons that pass through the grid. And we have focusing anodes, 3 to be exact, 3 tubes kept one after the other. We give the extreme tubes a positive potential and the middle tube a negative potential. By adjusting the potential difference between the extreme focusing anodes and the middle anode, we can focus the beam onto the screen. So we have the focus control. By adjusting the negative voltage to the grid, we have the ability to control the number of electrons that will pass through, and hence we can control the intensity of the. So one input to the grid is the intensity, the other input would be the blanking pulses, and most of the oscilloscope manufacturer also permit you to give your own input to the grid. It is normally called the Z input, because if you look at the screen is an XY graph, and the third dimension, the intensity of the spot, is known as the Z direction, right. So the grid will have a summing amplifier where a DC voltage to control the intensity of the spot that is generated would be there, and the blanking pulses generated by the sawtooth generator, right. Whenever the SWG stops, there will be a blanking pulse, very large negative voltage will also be added, and if you want, you can give your own Z modulation or the intensity modulation as the input. Then we have the two deflection plates, the vertical deflection plate and the horizontal deflection plate. So this is Vx, this is Vy. The Vy goes through an amplifier and we give the Y input. The Vx gets connected to an amplifier, and the amplifier input can either come from a sawtooth wave generator, which is controlled by a trigger circuit, and it is possible that you can give an external X to the X amplifier, right. Okay. Now the trigger circuit can be selected as from the Y input or external, and we will also have some other options, we will look at it a little later, right. And so with this, it is possible to look at the waveform on the Y, and then we also learned that it is possible to see more than one waveform using one single beam by multiplexing. So we put a switch, this is Y amplifier, amplifier Y, amplifier X, and you would have a delay line. I forgot the delay line. So we can put a switch here and put Y1 amplifier, Y2 amplifier, and operate the switch. Right. There are two modes of operating the switch. We can switch Y1 for one full sawtooth waveform and switch Y2 in the next. So, we can alternate selecting the channels to be displayed on the screen at the rate set by the sawtooth frequency, right. Then this mode is called the alternate mode, right. So, in the alternate mode, the frequency is set by the sawtooth wave generator, right. In the chopped mode, we give a high frequency, we give 1 0 1 0 for the first or odd sweeps 1 3 5 sweeps and 0 1 0 1 for the even sweeps, right. And we saw that it is possible to display two waveforms on the screen. Okay. And when I have two channels Y1 and Y2, I also have the trigger select as Y1 and Y2, right. It is possible to select which of the input waveform selects the trigger, right. Obviously, if the Y1 and Y2 are not related to each other, they are completely different signals, right. If I trigger with Y1, Y2 will not be stable, and if I trigger Y2, Y1 will not be stable, right. Only related signals can be viewed on a dual trace oscilloscope. When I do this, then we call this as dual. This is Y1 input, Y2 input. I can have direct coupled or capacitor coupled. So, this is called dual trace, right. By simply having a switch and amplifiers, individual amplifiers, we can generate two waveforms, we can show two waveforms on the screen, right. Now, in the last class we said why only two Y's, why not two X's, right. One x axis having, let us say 10 millisecond, the other x axis having 10 microseconds. I want to expand a small portion of the waveform and see, right. So, if I have a small portion, let us say something like this, I want this portion alone to be expanded and seen, right. Let me put this in a different color, and that is expanded and seen. So, this is x1 time base, this is x2 time base, right. Now, if I look at it, x1 time base will have a time period, let us assume this is 10 millisecond, right. It is a whole x. Now, this is, I assume that this is 1 millisecond, right. The portion that I want to see on the waveform expanded way is 1 millisecond. Obviously, x2 must be 1 millisecond. It is not enough, right. It is not enough if I draw the waveforms here. I have my signal, this is right, and I have my x1 sawtooth waveform, this is 10 millisecond. Now, when I want to see this, I need to generate a sawtooth which is 1 millisecond, this is x2 1 millisecond, right, and it is not enough that I generate a sawtooth for 1 millisecond, I should also start the sawtooth after the x1 started after a particular delay, right. I call this as tau d, right. Say this is something like this portion is 1.3 millisecond, right. So I must tau d is equal to 1.3 millisecond. So I have two sawtooth wave generators, I call this as main and I call this as delayed sawtooth wave generator. The second sawtooth x2, right, not only has a time period much smaller than the main sawtooth, main is 10 millisecond, the delayed is 1 millisecond, and the starting of the sawtooth is delayed by 1.3 millisecond, right. So I must have from the sawtooth waveform a delay circuit, this is tau d, and then start the delayed sawtooth, right. So for one sweep, one x sweep, we keep the main, the second sweep we keep the delay, right. The second delayed sweep, the delay is settable, right. You can start the delay from 0 to 10 millisecond, right. You can start 0 to almost full and until the end of the waveform, right. So for this particular example we need to delay 1.3 millisecond and put the delay time base of 1 millisecond, right. So we have now the main sawtooth wave generator and the delayed sawtooth wave generator, and so I have one more option for the x amplifier to be connected to. It is connected to the main for the first sweep, it is connected to the delayed for the second sweep, again it is connected for main to the third sweep, delay for in the fourth sweep, and so on, right. The sweep will alternate, the x amplifier input will alternate from the main to delay, delay to main, and so on, right. That is the only mode that is available to you, right. So if we have two sawtooth wave generators, if you have two inputs, we call this as the dual trace oscilloscope. If you have two sawtooth wave generators, then we call this as dual time base oscilloscope, right. So you can have the dual trace oscilloscope only with one time base, you can also have a dual trace oscilloscope with dual time base, right. Okay. So it is possible to see more than two waveforms if I have dual trace and dual time base, right. I can show a y1 and y2 and I can also show delayed signal of one of them, not both, right. I can show y1, y2 and delayed signal of either y1 or y2, right. So which means if I have dual trace and dual time base, it may be possible, not all oscilloscope manufacturers give you this facility, but some manufacturers do, you can see three waveforms, not two, right. Okay. Now if I look at, apart from this, if I look at the trigger in a normal oscilloscope, you will see that the trigger is internal, which is y1, y2, right. If it is only single channel, only y1, and external, when you put the trigger as external, you will have to feed an external signal to trigger the sawtooth wave generator, right. Why is this necessary? For example, if I am troubleshooting my circuit and my circuit I give a signal as the reference, example is a digital circuit, right. We give clock as the input to a sequential digital circuit, and maybe I divide the clock by 2, 4, 8 and so on. I want to look at what happens with respect to the clock, right. Then I can give the clock as the external input and trigger on the clock, right. or if I am using the a particular analog signal and then maybe processing that analog signal, I would like to see the processed output with reference to my input, right. Then that analog signal I can feed it as the external input and set the trigger level and slope on the external input, right. So that is the reason why they have put the external input. The other options, right, let me put it separately here. We have CRO, you can have dual trace, of course single or dual trace. When we call dual trace, I already told you some manufacturers even give you 4 channels, right. So instead of Y1 Y2 we have Y1 Y2 Y3 Y4, we can switch through Y1 Y2 Y3 Y4, right. But still it is called dual trace, right. 4 channel dual trace oscilloscope or dual stroke single time base. Right. Now whatever be the type of oscilloscope, we will have the mode of the oscilloscope. There are 2 modes possible, YT mode and XY mode. Y3 mode is a normal mode where the x axis is the time, that you set the time on the x axis, right. So in the Y2 mode the sawtooth wave generator comes into picture, right, the sawtooth wave generator comes into the picture. In the XY mode you have to feed both x and y signals, there is no internally generated signal, right, and there is no trigger circuit, right. In the YT mode both the sawtooth circuit and the trigger circuit will come into working modes, and the moment I go to the XY mode, right, only the x input and the y input are given to the user and everything else inside is switched off, right. So we will look at what is the application of the XY mode, right. Now if I, this is the operating mode of the oscilloscope, the trigger, if it is YT mode, right, the trigger input can be selected as internal, I put INT in capital because that is what you will be seeing on the oscilloscope printed, INT in capital, right. So that means that is internal mode. Then you have external mode, again EXT will be printed and there will be an external input, external trigger input will be provided on the oscilloscope, right. And you will, in the internal mode, if I have a dual trace then I can choose Y1 or Y2, right, and in all trigger modes we have to choose the level and slope, right, it is not just one selection, right. So we will have to choose level and slope, right. Sometimes the manufacturer also gives you normal mode. In the normal mode, which is also called manual mode, you have to set the level and the slope. In the auto mode there is an internal circuit in the oscilloscope that finds out what is the best level for your input signal and sets that level and the slope, okay. Now apart from this you will also see 2 other modes, TVH, TVV, right. These are modes that were in use when the television was analog television. In most countries the television is now completely going digital, right. So maybe in another few years we will not see an analog television at all, then these two modes will be absolutely useless, right. The TVH means television horizontal synchronization, and TVV is television vertical synchronization. If you look at a television, television is again another CRT with XY deflections, right, and the picture is displayed as lines, right. If I look at a television screen, analog television screen, I have the picture is made of line 1 to line n, and once one picture starting from line 1 to line 1 are shown on the CRT, the next picture is displayed, the next picture is displayed. So we have what is known as frames. Each frame will contain n lines, right, and we have different standards, right. In India we follow what is known as the CCI TTV standard. We have 625 lines. So we have 625 lines per frame and 50 frames per second, right, 50 frames per second. Okay. Now if I look at when I am transmitting the signal, I have to clearly tell where is the start of line 1 and where is the end of line 1 and beginning of line 2, right. Okay. So if I look at a typical analog TV signal, it would be something like this. Right. So this is start of line 1, this is start of line 2, this is start of line 3 and so on, right, start of line 3. Right. The intensity of each spot in within line 1 would be the analog value, right, between. So these pulses are called horizontal or line sync pulses, synchronization pulses. When your television, analog television receives this signal, it detects these line start and stop signals and then displays the line properly, right. So if I choose the TVH mode of trigger, right, to recognize those signals you need a special circuit, right, known as horizontal synchronization recognition circuit, right. So there is a separate circuit that comes between the trigger input and your trigger source, right, and you can choose that circuit to come into picture and synchronize with the horizontal television synchronization pulses. So you will be able to see one line of waveform, that particular waveform on the television screen. Now similarly to the horizontal synchronization pulses, when I have all the n lines are finished, right. So I have the last nth line, right, nth line is finished, then we have a series of pulses comprising to the entire magnitude. This is known as vertical or frame synchronization. So again, to sense whether there is a vertical or frame synchronization in the continuous signal that is received by the television receiver, there is a separate circuit for detecting that there is a vertical or phase synchronization. When I put the mode on the oscilloscope as TVV, that circuit comes into picture. It recognizes the vertical synchronization and then triggers the oscilloscope, right. So, when I put in TVV, I will always see the first line, right. When I put TVH, I do not know which line I am going to trigger, right. It could be line 1, it could be line 10, it could be line 20 and so on, right. So, these are the two modes that were introduced by the oscilloscope manufacturers specifically to view television, analog television signals. You will also see one more mode called line. In the line synchronization mode, the input to the trigger circuit is the power supply, right, power line. In India, of course, power frequency is 50 hertz. So, the oscilloscope is automatically made to trigger at 50 hertz, right. You can choose to trigger and see signals that are related to power line frequency, right. Okay. Now, if it is dual trace, right, you can choose the alternate mode or chop mode. We have already seen what it means, what is alternate mode, what is chop mode, right. And if it is dual time base, you have three modes: main plus delayed and delay. You can see the main time base alone, switch off the delay time base, but then it works as a normal single time base CRO. You can switch on both main and delay, so both will be displayed, the full waveform will be displayed and the portion that you have selected using the delay trigger would also be displayed, right. Then it is also possible to suppress the main and see only the delay time base, right. In such a case, we have to be very careful, because in the delayed time base mode alone, right, synchronization becomes very tedious and difficult. Now, after the manufacturing of all these kinds of oscilloscope, people realized that we can see using this kind of oscilloscope however complex they are, right, only signals that are repetitive, right. If the signals are not repetitive, if I have once a signal that occurs only once, it will not be possible for us to see in a normal analog cathode ray oscilloscope, right. So, the signal has to be repetitive, so that I can repeatedly show the same portion of the signal again and again on the screen, and I can see the waveforms, right. If I have, let us say I have a capacitor, I put a switch and then I close the switch at time t equal to 0, then I will get a signal something like this, right. All of us know it would not be possible to see it on the oscilloscope, and a conventional oscilloscope, right. Apart from these, some of the oscilloscope manufacturer also give you some additional things, like you can put a filter at the trigger input and filter out all the low frequency signals, right. Put a low pass, high pass filter, filter out all the low frequency signals, or put a low pass filter and filter all the high frequency signals, right. And it is also possible that you can trigger on a glitch, right. Instead of triggering, right, I can trigger on a signal like this, right. There would be an internal circuit which will look for a small glitch and then start the sawtooth generator, right. So these are some extra things that the manufacturers give, but whatever happens, it will not be possible to view a signal that occurs only once using a conventional oscilloscope, whether it is single trace, dual trace, single beam, dual beam, it does not matter, right. To do that, we need a storage oscilloscope. In the initial stages, people use analog storage, but today the analog storages do not exist. We have digital storage oscilloscope. Analog storage, people tried all kinds of storage on the analog. They use the screen itself to have a capacitance and store the waveforms as charge on a mesh, right. That was very popular, and even though the technology is quite expensive, complex, quite a number of analog storage oscilloscopes were made and sold in the 70s and 80s, right. But the advancements in the digital arena, right, made that the digital storage oscilloscopes eclipse the analog storage oscilloscope. You will not be able to buy one today, even if you want to buy, no manufacturer will manufacture and give you an analog storage. So let us not look at the analog storage oscilloscope, we will look at the digital storage oscilloscope. The digital storage oscilloscope so we take the Y input, we have the Y amplifier, right, we have the Y amplifier, and then the output is given to an analog to digital converter. The analog to digital converter goes into a digital system, and the digital system has a digital to analog converter. I call this as DAC, and this DAC is displayed on a display. Right. In the beginning, the display was an analog oscilloscope, right. The display was the analog oscilloscope, right. Today, of course, we have different kinds of display. I will talk about the display a little later. We assume that the display is the CRO, cathode ray oscilloscope, right. So the advantage is that I have a signal, I do not really need to, let us say this is my capacitance signal, occurs only once. I take samples of these signals in my digital system. Now once I have digital samples, I can store in the digital memory into my digital system, right. The digital system is somewhat akin to your personal computer, right. In the beginning, they started with a dedicated digital system using a particular CPU, memory, and so on. Today, most of the oscilloscope manufacturers will give you a conventional computer built inside the digital storage oscilloscope, right. You can even choose the operating system that you want. If you can say my oscilloscope, digital storage oscilloscope, must be Windows based or Unix based or Linux based, right. And of course, I have not seen so far an Android based storage oscilloscope, but maybe it will come soon. Okay. So we take samples, store it in the digital system, and then I can now repeatedly send the samples to the DAC. So at the DAC, I can put one signal, again repeat that signal, repeat that signal, right, and once I get the repeated signal I can display it on the CRO. This is how it was done in the initial stages, right. In the initial stages the digital storage oscilloscopes also had an analog CRO built inside, right. You had a CRT, you had deflection plates, you had deflection amplifiers, X amplifiers, Y amplifiers, the complete works was there. Additionally we have this digital system. Today most of the manufacturers do not do that, right, where they take a conventional display that is for any personal computer system. For example, the display could be a simple liquid crystal display with a display controller, right. Okay. There is no question of repeating, there is no question of generating, right, the horizontal and vertical synchronization and so on. So the moment I have a digital storage oscilloscope, it is possible to view single shot events, right. When we view the single shot events, please understand that we capture the single shot event, repeat it again and again and view it on the screen, right. So when we look at this particular system, the ADC decides what kind of signal I can see, right. Suppose if my signal is a repetitive signal, right, I take samples. So if I want to really display a nice smooth waveform on the display, then I need quite a large number of samples, right. It is not enough. Normally when we talk about sampling in the digital domain, we use the sampling theorem or the Nyquist criterion, saying that if I sample more than twice the maximum frequency contained in my signal, then I would represent my digital signal in the correctly represent the analog signal in the digital domain. But on an oscilloscope that is not adequate. If I have a sine wave, I have only 3 samples, right. Mathematically, yes, I can reconstruct the sine wave, but I will not be able to see the waveform, nice sine waveform on the screen. So you need multiple samples, right. So these ADCs have to be really very fast ADCs, right. So even a simple starting storage oscilloscope will have anywhere between 10 mega samples per second to 50 mega samples per 1 giga samples per second ADCs. So when I go into high speed conversion, right, then my ADCs can be of only one particular type, right. Basically they are flash AD converters. We will talk about the different types of AD converters. So the ADCs employed in digital storage oscilloscopes are always of the flash ADC, right, and the conversion rate is mega samples per second. We will learn a little later that the moment I go to this type of conversion, analog to digital conversion, right, the number of bits that I have in the digital side will be small, will have to be small. I cannot have a 1 giga samples per second 16 bit ADC, very difficult, right. So most of the time the ADCs that are used in a digital storage oscilloscope will be 8 bit resolution, right. 8 binary bits would be the output of the ADC, and the moment I look at the 8 bit, right, the 8 bit means I can have levels between 0 and 255, right. This is 2 power 8 minus 1. I can resolve my analog signal in the amplitude, right, between 0 and FF in hexadecimal, right. When I have 8 bits, I can have 0 0 0. If it is 8 bits, I have 0 0 0 0 0 0, 2 nibbles, to 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. So, this is 0, this is 255, right. So, 1 out of 255 levels, right. Many of us really look at it and say, oh, this is not very good, right, is not it, only 255 levels. But if you look at the on the screen, right, if you look at an analog oscilloscope, the analog oscilloscope is roughly 8 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and you will have markings every millimeter, right. So, the resolution is 1 by 80 on the vertical side and 1 by 100 on the horizontal side. Okay. So, even if you think that you can measure less than 1 millimeter, right, maybe our eyes can resolve about 300 micrometer, one dot, right. The moment I put a dot with my pen or a pencil, the thickness of that dot would be roughly about 300 microns, right, 0.3 millimeters. Now, even if you say that I am going to take 0.3 millimeter resolution measurement, it will be 1 by 240, right, whereas the ADC that I get on the 8 bit is 255. So, that is more than adequate if you are going to take measurements on the screen, right. So, the resolution of an 8 bit flash ADC used in most of the digital storage oscilloscopes are quite adequate, right. Now, because I am going to take samples, right, there is something that you can do in a digital storage oscilloscope which you cannot do on the analog storage oscilloscope. I can trigger at a particular point, right, and I can, because I am going to get all the samples, I can also see what happens prior to the signal trigger, right. In a digital storage oscilloscope, right, there is no question of starting a sawtooth waveform once the trigger comes in, right. So, I can see samples prior to the trigger. So, it is possible to see waveforms just what happened before the trigger, right. So, on the screen I need not start the trigger here, right, I can start the trigger somewhere else and I can see the signal before and after the trigger, right. Otherwise, the rest of the controls that you would see on an analog signal, analog CRO, you will get on the digital CRO. All the decisions will be made on the digitized samples rather than on the analog input, right. And with the digital storage oscilloscope, because I have the digital system inside, I can also take in digital signals directly to the digital. When do we call a signal a digital signal? If the signal has only 2 levels, 1 and 0, right, 0 volts and 5 volts or minus 5 volts and plus 5 volts, right. So, we can take the digital signals which are 1 0 1 0, right, directly into my memory, right, on the digital system and then display, right. So, with a digital storage oscilloscope, we can not only see analog signals, we can also see digital signals. If we have such an oscilloscope, they are called mixed signal oscilloscope or simply MSOs. You can mix analog and digital signals and display them on the screen, right. If we have only digital signals, we do not have the ADC, we have only digital signals to the oscilloscope, then the oscilloscope, the digital storage oscilloscope is simply called as logic analyzer. Right. In the mixed signal, I have digital as well as analog inputs. In the logic analyzer, I have only digital inputs. Please note the logic analyzer is also a digital oscilloscope, right, digital storage oscilloscope. The logic analyzer, the difference between a digital storage oscilloscope, a digital storage oscilloscope takes only analog signals and displays, right, and of course when I have analog signal input I can feed digital there is no problem, right. When I talk about mixed signal oscilloscope we have both digital and analog, right, it could be 2 analog inputs and 16 digital inputs, right. So which means I will be able to see 18 signals on the screen, right. It is not a big problem because the digital signals are always ones and zeros, so even if you have a small amplitude you can distinguish 1 and 0, right. Logic analyzer is a digital oscilloscope, but it does not accept analog input, it accepts only digital inputs, ones and zeros, right. Now the most important thing that you should look for in a digital storage oscilloscope, right. In the analog storage oscilloscope we can look at all this, what is the sensitivity on the x axis, what is sensitivity on the y axis, right, what is the bandwidth of the oscilloscope, right. So in an analog storage oscilloscope the bandwidth is one important factor, it is 100 megahertz bandwidth oscilloscope or 700 megahertz bandwidth oscilloscope and so on. The maximum that I have seen in analog oscilloscope is about 700 megahertz, not more than that, right. On the other hand in the digital storage oscilloscope we will have bandwidth because the amplifier Y amplifier comes into the picture and the bandwidth of the Y amplifier is also important, right. And the conversion speed of the ADC that also decides on the actual one shot bandwidth that you can get, right. Higher the conversion rate, right, higher the conversion speed is better oscilloscope. If I have only 10 mega samples per second, right, then most of the time the bandwidth will be 20 megahertz or 30 megahertz, right, I cannot get. So there are, it is possible that I can have a 1 giga samples per second and still I have a bandwidth of 2 gigahertz, right. I will talk about subsampling maybe a little later when we talk about the analog to digital converters. But most important thing is however fast I acquire my signal on the digital front, the repetition rate that you see on the screen will be decided by the display system, right. In the analog oscilloscope if I am operating at let us say 100 megahertz, right, which means every 100 nanosecond I am writing one waveform because it has to be done at that time, right. On the other hand if I am seeing a 100 megahertz signal on a 500 megahertz digital storage oscilloscope, I may be digitizing at 500 megahertz and storing it, but when I am displaying it I may not, or the manufacturer may not display it at every 100 nanoseconds, because all of us know, right, in a conventional display on a computer displaying it at every 100 nanosecond is very difficult, right. A typical computer display would have 80 frames per second, right, which means you can display only 80 times a second, right. So you will apply in 100 nanosecond will take tens of milliseconds to display, but most of the recent storage oscilloscopes have slightly better display update rate, right. So apart from the bandwidth we need to look at the display update rate. The display update rate tells you how fast your display is replenished, so that you can see things that are happening in a dynamic manner, right. So typically 1000 or 10,000 display per second, display update per second is that is what you will get in a normal storage oscilloscope, that would be the maximum that can occur. But there are special digital storage oscilloscope where you have your display update rate called DUR is 1 million per second, right, 1 mega displays per second, right, which means every microsecond the display is being updated, right. So, whenever we use a digital storage oscilloscope, we will have to be very careful about this display update rate. We stop here, we will continue in the next class.